So then we've moved on to conservatism. So what we're going to look today to start off with is we're going to look at the key features of conservatism. So we're going to look at 6 key features of conservatism. Firstly, pragmatism. So many people have argued that conservatism isn't actually an ideology because of the pragmatic nature of conservatism. So conservatives reject ideology in many ways. What they look at when they're presented with a problem is, rather than look for an ideological solution to it, they look for practical solutions. So this is less true of the new right. It was certainly less true of Margaret Thatcher, which was more ideological. But if we look at the Conservatives' current response to coronavirus, look at how they have embraced things like the furloughing scheme and the assistance, the state help that they'd offered, we wouldn't normally associate those policies with conservatism. So that would point towards the pragmatic nature of conservatism. So the second key feature is tradition. Conservatives have often been accused of looking backwards rather than forwards, living in the past rather than living in the present. So they support a number of what we would call traditional institutions. The Conservatives wanted to keep the House of Lords when Labour reformed it. They have support for the monarchy. The Conservatives tend to support the monarchy more than those who would associate themselves with the other political ideologies. The Church of England as well. What they believe is that these institutions have stood the test of time, and therefore the collective wisdom of these institutions should be passed on to future generations. So there's a strong belief in tradition within conservatism. The third key feature is that of human imperfection. They hold a much more negative or a much more pessimistic view of human nature than liberals and socialists as well. They therefore reject these ideas that some sort of perfect society exists. They don't believe we can live in a perfect society. They believe that the society we live in, which has stood the test of time, is the best we can do. Anyone who believes in some sort of perfect society and wants to radically transform the current way that the current society we have, is foolish in their minds. Humans are imperfect. We are limited intellectually with our power of reason. We're ultimately limited, and we shouldn't think too highly of ourselves that we can devise this perfect utopian society. So the fourth key feature is that of an organic state or an organic society. So they view society as a living organism. It changes, it adapts, it evolves over time. Radical change should therefore be rejected. Society should be allowed to evolve over time. Change in order to conserve is a saying which is linked with conservatism. They'll only change when there's no other alternative to change, which takes you back to pragmatism, I guess. Fifthly, a belief in paternalism. So members of the elite should govern in the interests of those who are not part of the elite, the noblesse oblige. They believe in authority. They believe in authoritative figures. They believe that in the same way that a parent should have authority over its child, a teacher should have some sort of authority over their children, the police should have authority within a state. We should respect those who are in positions of authority. They are in authority for a reason, more so due to ability and talent today rather than the class that they were born in, but they still hold on to that paternalistic tradition. And finally, and this isn't linked with all conservatives, it's more true of sort of Thatcher and the new right, but there is this overlap with liberalism, so libertarianism, this belief that the state should be minimal, that the state should do as little as possible, which we've looked at quite a lot with classical liberalism, and that is where that overlap between classical liberalism and Thatcherism, or the new right, really comes from. So those are the key features of conservatism.